My sister didn't accidentally spill wine on my dress. She lifted the glass, she smiled, and she made sure every drop landed exactly where it would hurt the most. Then she leaned toward the security guard and said, loud enough for the people nearby to hear, "The help really shouldn't cry in front of the guests." That was the moment I stopped being invisible. Because as the deep red wine soaked through my white silk gown and onto my skin, I looked past her shoulder and saw my husband's black SUV turning into the valet lane. And I knew, in less than 1 minute, everything my family thought they controlled was about to collapse. Who I am, the forgotten daughter. My name is Maya Vance. For as long as I can remember, I've been the quiet one in my family, the daughter who learned early that being useful was safer than being loved. My older sister Chloe was everything my parents admired: loud, polished, ambitious, and perfectly comfortable taking up space. I was the opposite. While Chloe collected praise, I collected silence. I became a researcher, not because it impressed anyone, but because I loved the work. I spent my days in soil labs and experimental greenhouses, studying sustainable agriculture, how to grow food in a world running out of time. It was meaningful. It was difficult. And to my parents, it was humiliating. They didn't brag about me at dinner parties. They didn't understand my work, so they pretended it didn't matter. The two husbands, image versus reality. Chloe married Julian, a senior executive at AgroGlobal, one of the largest food conglomerates on the planet. Expensive suits, luxury cars, watches worth more than most people's rent for a year. My parents adored him. Then there was my husband, Caleb. I met Caleb at a seed convention in Iowa. Dusty floors, folding chairs, coffee that tasted like cardboard. He was wearing flannel and work boots, talking about regenerative farming with a quiet intensity that made me stop and listen. To my family, he was the farm guy. When I brought him home the first time, my mother didn't offer him a seat. She asked if he'd wiped the dirt off his shoes before stepping on her rug. What they never bothered to learn was this. Caleb didn't work for a farm. He owned the land, the patents, the supply chains, the same supply chains Julian's company depended on to survive. Caleb was worth 9 figures and hated talking about it. And me? I wasn't just a lab tech. I was the chief science officer of our firm. Together, we were powerful. We just didn't advertise it. Why we stayed silent. Caleb used to tell me, if someone only respects you when you look impressive, they never respected you at all. So we stayed quiet. We didn't correct assumptions. We didn't flaunt success. We let my family believe whatever made them comfortable. But silence has a cost. The wedding, where the humiliation began. Chloe's wedding invitation arrived 6 months before the event, a black tie ceremony at a private estate, $200,000, every detail designed to impress people who barely cared. My invitation came with a handwritten note from my mother. Please make sure Caleb wears a suit that doesn't smell like the outdoors. Important people will be there. A month before the wedding, my father called, panicked. They were short $25,000 for the final deposits. I knew Julian's bonus wasn't coming. I knew AgroGlobal was under audit. But Chloe was still my sister, so I sent the money anonymously through one of our philanthropic shell entities. The venue called it a vendor credit. Chloe bragged online the next day about how the universe rewarded her taste. Caleb saw the post and sighed. You're too good for them. I told him I just wanted one peaceful day. I was wrong. The seating, the message was clear. The day of the wedding arrived with a storm rolling in. Caleb was delayed by an emergency call, so I arrived alone. I was wearing a simple cream silk gown, elegant, respectful. My mother met me at the door and frowned. We're over capacity, she said. You'll need to sit outside, just until the toasts are done. Outside meant a leaking tent near the service entrance, plastic chairs, mud, rain. I stood there for an hour. Then Chloe came out, and then the wine. The breaking point. She didn't apologize. She mocked me. She had security escort me away. My parents watched and said nothing. And that's when Caleb arrived. The reveal. Power changes the air. Caleb saw me once, the stained dress, the shaking hands, and something in him hardened. He took my hand and walked straight into the ballroom. The room froze. Then the CEO of AgroGlobal recognized him. The lie cracked. Open the audit, the theft, the $40,000, the promotion fraud. And when Caleb pulled the merger, everything collapsed. Aftermath. Justice isn't loud. The music stopped. The wedding ended. The money vanished. 2 days later, my mother came to our real home with a bill. I didn't argue. I told her I had recordings. She left without another word. Ending. Quiet power. Chloe and Julian live in my parents' basement now. Caleb and I went back to the lab, back to the soil, because nothing real grows in a place built on lies. And if you've ever been made to feel small, you're not.